tonight we're going to talk about two individuals that had the longevity. And that's what it's all about. It's all about the longevity. And we're going to break down who done it best between Eric Von Zip Martin, fresh out of Harlem, New York, and then we got Isaac Hicks, fresh out of Miami, Florida. Now I'll show you how to compare two people. Now we got Von Zip. He was all the way out in New York. Compared to Turnpike Ike, he was in the South, in Florida. And that's when Florida was popping. That's when all the Cubans and Colombians was coming over, getting to that money. So he was closer to the plug. So that's the advantage that Ike got. So when it comes to money, Ike money was way longer than Von Zip's. Von Zip's did have connection out on the West Coast. He had the Crips, the Southside Crips, out in L.A. He dealt with them. Now, it was just a matter of a phone call that he can get anyone touched on any coast. On either coast, he had connections. So on the West Coast, he could make a phone call, get someone hit. On the East Coast, of course, where his hometown at. Now, Von Zip's name was mentioned a couple times in the Tupac hit. A lot of people said that, Diddy paid him $1 million for the hit, which I don't believe. The $1 million could have been towards anything. And then they said it was a weapon that he provided for the Southside Crips. So at the end of the day, he wasn't convicted for it or anything. He didn't do any jail time for it, but his name was balled up. Now, when it comes to Isaac Hicks, his name was never balled up in any type of... And I'm pretty sure he went to the Colombians and Cubans. He will sign a contract, paid a little money, and then, he will make things disappear. He would just make his problems go away. That's what it's all about. It's all about not being mentioned. So that's one advantage that Isaac Hicks had. He was quiet. Even if he had something to do with any of the bodies dropping, they all pitted into the politics of the Miami drug war, with the Colombians going to war with each other on American soil. That's just that. So even if he played a part of it, he fell back and just let them take the blame for it. Now, Isaac Hicks did have attempted, just like I said, he haven't been convicted of any or anything. Like, he had a long rap sheet. And to compare it to Eric Von Zip Martin's, his criminal career, he didn't do a day in jail. He basically didn't do any time. He finished his career with no arrest or anything. He was just a smooth individual. In his early career, he may have little petty small pinches here and there, but he haven't did a X amount of time compared to these other criminals. Now, when it comes to the black community, they always say if you haven't done time or you did very little time, you had to be an informant, you had to be working with the feds whatsoever. I don't believe it. When the Italians talk about Carlo Gambino, which did 0 time in jail, they never say, oh, he must have been cooperating with anything or an informant. They just give him his props. One thing about the black community, it's hard to give each other props. It's just hate, It's just a lot of hate that just comes from this, this community. And Carlo Gambino had a hell of a run. He had almost 30 years, maybe even longer. A lot of people say there's no way that someone could be a criminal and have that long of a run without any arrest. But hey, and in their cases, these were the men, this living proof. And then you had guys that's out here that had longer runs than that we just never heard of. No pictures, no anything. So, that's just my take on it. And one thing I forgot to add, referring to Isaac Hicks, is that his connections was very powerful. He had connections to the mayor. He was actually sitting at the table with the Republican Party out in Florida. He did make a contribution of $100,000 just to sit in a, that's the real thing. That's the truth. All you have to do is have money. All you have to do is have the right connections. The Republicans all about their money. All you have to do is make a large donation to the Republican Party, and boom, you're sitting in their circle. You have those type of connections, and they have the power to make things go away. But as far as his cases and everything, it just plays into the politics. So if the government wants you, they're going to get you. So the Republicans, they can make phone calls and they can get things wiped off record. Yes, that is true. When it comes to Big Ike, no telling what was swept under the rug. With just a phone call, these guys can get things swept under the rug. And that's just something that just goes on in the life. Like, if you want to be powerful, you have to have those type of connections. Now, both men were smart. Both men wanted to turn that dirty money into legitimate money. So both men will open clubs. You had Zip Codes by Eric Von Zip Martin. You may see videos of him sitting with Mike Tyson. You may see him getting out of limos with Mike Tyson arriving to the club, having a great grand opening, and then you had appearances by Stevie Wonder. Now, just a classy environment. It's classy if Stevie Wonder appeared there. You had some celebrities off the record that would show up. Very successful. You could take your girl there. They had food, they had good music. You had Isaac Hicks. He opened up a club called Heart of the City, and he basically opened up a club because he saw how Miami was catering, you know, the Latinos and the white people when it comes to partying. So it wasn't really places that was catered to black. So that's the reason why he opened this club. The grand opening was big. It was actually televised. But between the two, Eric Von Zip wins in this category because this club was very successful. He was very low key. He was under the radar. And when it come to Ike, he was under investigation during this time. So you had the law enforcement hating on him. So law enforcement will step up to the owner and will let the owner know that, hey, this guy is a drug trafficker. So I wouldn't continue to do business with this guy because this place will be seized, or, you know, whatever games they play. So, you know, his club didn't last long due to the hate. And of course, that wasn't Ike's only source of income. He had other legitimate businesses. He had his construction company. He had little small clubs. He had a lot going on during that time. Now, of course, Big Ike will have more businesses and own more property than Eric Von Zip due to having a larger bankroll. That just happens in the game. There's people that's just going to have way more money than you. Now, if we sit and compare and talk about who was the smarter men out of these two, I mean, both men had people approach them wearing wires. Now, Big Ike did have a close family member attempted to, you know, to get him to talk on wiretap. The close family member, of course, had access to Ike, and Ike was comfortable with allowing this person to purchase drugs off of him. Instead of pointing this person to someone else, he said, hey, I can get it myself, and we can do the deal. And the person asked for a larger supply on a different date. Ike said, hey, just hit me up and let me know. And that was all recorded. Now, we can't really fault him. Just like I said, this could happen to anyone. Like, anyone close to you could come up to you wearing a wire and you will never know. They can get your mom, they can get your pop, they can get anyone. Now, as far as Eric Von Zip, Keefe D attempted to wear a wire and ask some questions about drugs and questions about this, questions about that. They wasn't really that close. You know, they probably haven't done business since the 90s or early 2000s. So why are you coming up to me out of nowhere asking me about this, asking about that? Eric Von Zip told this person, I'm not in the game right now. I'm not in the game no more. So that was a smart thing, not knowing that, you know, he was wearing a wire. And it was kind of suspicious because you're all the way out in LA. Why are you coming to me for some work? Now, just like I said, Big Ike had the money. That's one thing. So he beats Eric Von Zip in that category. But as far as the freedom, Eric Von Zip has that. So you have to balance it. You have to pick one. Would you rather have your money or your freedom? Because both men had money, but Isaac Hicks just had more. He had way more. So in my eyes, having that amount of money is not worth it. That little bit of money that Von Zip had compared to Ike, and he was willing to have a comfortable life and his freedom. So I would rather pick Eric Von Zip. I think he was the best to do it because he made his millions. Compared to Big Ike's tens of millions, he still had a comfortable life. No jail time. He still had his freedom. Eric Von Zip club lasted longer. And plus, the biggest thing is he never did a day in jail. That's what the game is about. You're supposed to make your money and not to get caught. That's what it's all about. It's about not getting caught. A lot of people overlook that. It will say, hey, I'd rather pick this person because he got money. I mean, how much money do you need? Like, whatever happened to making just enough? Not just enough to get by, but way over 7 figures. You know, you could pitch your house out in the hills. You can drive that fly foreign. Everything's good. You got your club. You got your business. You don't even need to sell no more. You could just fall back, sit on the stash that you had, sit on that paper that you made back in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, and just enjoy life and collect checks off of your business and sit back, sip something with some celebrities, and just enjoy life. Now, if he was still alive today, I think he would have been questioned for the Tupac murder. Well, not for the murder itself, but with him funding the Southside Crips and, you know, him supplying a weapon that Keefe D said he supplied them in Vegas. So he would have definitely been questioned, but you gotta have proof. And he had his game tight, so I think they wouldn't have anything on him. He's a pretty smooth dude, chill, laid back. So that's one thing about these cases, you have to have the proof. Now, Keefe D the type to take everybody down with him. So when someone's caught, once they see you walk free and you're successful, that's when they start running their mouths.